So we do have a quorum.
Yes, Madam Chair, you do have a quorum right now.
We do.
Terrific.
So I could say welcome to the Citizens Oversight Committee meeting of, today is July, is it 13th?
The 13th.
13th. I am apologize. I'm a little foggy. I actually have COVID, but I'm at the end of it. So yeah, so I got it last Friday. And so anyway, I'm not a bad case. Thank heaven. So anyway, I'm a little foggy though in the head because it does make you tired. That's what it does, if nothing else, I think. So anyway, I'm calling the meeting to order. And I'd like to go around and have everyone introduce themselves quickly because I know that I see some new faces that maybe didn't attend last time. And Marcus Crawley, you have not been introduced to the new committee members and you've not introduced yourself. So please go ahead and I'll start with Jeff because Jeff Cambra, he says he may have to go in and out of the meeting just for a few minutes occasionally. So I'll let you go start, Jeff.
Hi, well, good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Crawley, good afternoon. Nice to meet you as well. I am a 37-year resident of the city of Alameda, very involved in the community, involved with the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, and more recently with the College of Alameda in a scholarship that the Rotary Club created and got a chance to know a little bit more about all the workings and goings on at the College of Alameda. I'm also a graduate of BCC in their video production department. And so this seemed like a great opportunity. I was approached by Dr. Jackson to see if I might be available to kind of represent the residents of Alameda. And so that's where I am.
Great. So, and Dr. Stacy Thompson, I'll let you go next.
Good afternoon. Stacy Thompson. I am a retired, yay. I retired as from the Vice Presidency of Academic Services at Chabot College. I served for over almost 8 years. And prior to that, I worked in the Peralta District as a dean and as a faculty member. And I am a lifelong citizen of Oakland. I live in the Adams Point area. And I am excited to be on this side of the table to support and these efforts to make sure that we're headed in the right direction with these funds, because I know Peralta really is an excellent district. I know firsthand from working here, and just want to make sure that, you know, I'm involved with its continued excellence.
So
how's that for a speech?
That's great. Wonderful. Thank you. So Marcus Crowley, I'll let you go next.
Well, thank you, Andrea. Yeah, I'm an Oakland resident. I've been living in Oakland since 1969. I have been a general contractor for about 50 years. I'm retired now. And I am with the Alameda County Taxpayer Association. So with regard to that, I was appointed to the seat that is dedicated for the taxpayer representative. So I've been on this committee for since it was started about 2.5 years ago, and I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. So I believe I saw Benjamin Scott. Are you the rose picture?
I don't know what picture I have. I can't get the camera to work, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a beautiful rose. I think that's you. But please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Benjamin Scott. Happy to be here to support Peralta. I'm a realtor and broker, and I've been in Oakland since '99.
Okay, thank you. So, and then I'll let everyone else go around and I'll just start on the screen from the top and rotate down. So Mark Johnson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of Marketing, Communication, and Public Relations for the Peralta Community College District. And I'm excited because I'm on vacation next week.
Oh, there you go. So, and Vice Chancellor Smith, Etheria.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. This is a great quorum. Everyone is here in the meeting. My name's Etheria Smith. I am the Interim Vice Chancellor of General Services.
Okay. And there's a caption over someone that says George Costin, but I don't think you look like a George Costin. So it's a woman that, let's see.
My name is Shirley Costin. I'm a retired librarian.
Shirley. Okay. Yes.
Shirley.
There you go.
I need to talk to you.
Uh-oh.
Thank you. And then I see the Chancellor is in the middle of the screen. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. First of all, welcome everyone. My name is Jeanette Jackson. I'm the interim chancellor. Started with Peralta in 2004 as the vice president of instruction at College of Alameda. Subsequently, I was the president, and then I left that job and took on the chancellor's role at Chabot Las Positas. Retired, failed retirement. Came back on an interim basis as a president in the San Mateo Community College District, and then was asked to extend my stay and come over to the Peralta District, where I started my career in 2004. So very glad to be back, helping the district move forward in a number of different initiatives. The bond and the parcel tax are just two of the community-based sponsorships that we received. So looking forward to it, seeing good friends out there. Some of you I kind of strong arm to be on the committee. Thank you for stepping forward. I do appreciate it. Since we were not getting a quorum for a while, which then stalled a lot of activities that this very important committee was supposed to do. So thank all of you. It's nice to meet you. I'm having some technology issues, so unfortunately you get my voice, but you don't get my face, and I think you got the better part of the deal. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the Chairman Dawson.
Yes. So I see Adil Ahmad, and I believe you're a vice chancellor. Is that true?
I am the interim vice chancellor of finance and administrations, and my name is Adil Ahmed.
Okay.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay. And then I see Keith Kajia from AECom, and he's the program manager.
Extraordinaire.
Yes, responsible in charge.
And modest, Keith, very modest.
Yes.
Good evening. Thrilled to be here. Great to see a full house here. We presented a number of times on the capital program, but I'm really excited about some of the great things that are about to happen with the capital program as we move into the construction phase.
Great. So, and then I see Dave Olson.
Hi, I'm Dave Olson. I'm with Baxter McCarley Berry. We're the financial advisor with regard to the district's bond program. We help the district issue bonds when that time comes around.
Okay, thank you. So I see two other names. One is Anton Junger and the other one is David Robidek. And I am not sure if you both are public. I believe Anton Junger is, but I don't know who Dave Robidek is.
Yep. Hi, Dave Robitek with CLA. I'm the
oh, you're the
yeah,
auditor. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you're coming up on the agenda soon. All right. So I will move on then.
And Chair Dawson, you also have Momo Lin, who is the internal auditor for Peralta.
Well, I apologize. I apologize. There's
Oh,
no,
and-
I can't see the name. It's cut off. So I
And Andrea
apologize.
Stokes
And
also.
yes,
Okay. Well, I don't see pictures here, but yeah, all right.
Andrea Stokes
Thank
is
you.
the beautiful rose.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you all, and we won't do this every time, but I think since we have new committee members, it was just important to get acquainted again. So, so the next item is to approve the agenda, and there are 11 items on the agenda, and I would like to take comments from anyone that is interested in moving an agenda item or has something to say about it. I see Marcus Crowley, your hand's up.
Well, thank you, Andrea. Two things on the agenda that I'd like to clarify. One of them is the appointment to the to this committee by the two new members, Ms. Thompson and Mr. Canberra. It looks like they are only appointed here for 1 year. I don't know whether that is a clerical error or it was an opportunity to create staggered terms. So can we clarify that?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark Johnson.
Sure. Yeah, my understanding is that both Mr. Canberra and Dr. Thompson replaced members. So they inherited the term of those prior members. So that's why they joined in February, but they have a June 2023 expire date.
Well, I would like to respond to that. And the education code states that a member is appointed to a term not less than 2 years. So it seems to me that there is a little conflict here with the education code. I don't know of any provision in the education code that says a new member assumes the rest of a previous term.
Mr. Crawley, that was explained to you when this committee first started in 2019. We had the similar situation.
Yes, that's right. And at that time, I went along with the flow. And I don't think that I should go along with the flow again on that. But we can set that aside for right now. And I would also like to request that the nomination and election of the chairperson and vice chair be moved from agenda item number 9 up to agenda item number 4. And the reason I ask this is that these are essential to the establishment of this committee. And I think it has a higher priority than any other agenda item. So can we do that? Can we move it up to being not so late into the agenda?
Would you like to propose that? And I will second it.
Yes, I move that agenda item number 9 be moved into position number 4, item number 4.
Okay, I will second that motion. So can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Second.
So are we going to have any discussion about it at all?
Sure.
I was just curious because that's usually the next question. Is there any discussion?
You're absolutely right.
So are we asking to put it before public comment or after? I guess is my point, is what I would like to know. Do we have folks here for public comment?
I think we may have public comment, yes.
So
Usually,
Mr. Crowley?
just a point of clarification, usually any business of the board or any committee, Brown Act committee, which this is, the business of the board takes place after any public comment.
Exactly.
So it would be item number 5 then. We'll
Right.
take public comment first. Thank you for that clarity. Okay,
Okay, thank you. And what is the business of the board in this independent committee again?
we are the Citizens Oversight Committee. The agenda is the business of our committee.
Who's speaking there?
Andrea. So I don't want to get,
So Madam Chair, I'd like to call for the question for the
Yes.
motion that's on the floor with the
okay,
amendment of moving it to after public comment.
thank you. So let's call the question. I second calling the question.
Great, thank you. So for clarity, we are moving the election of chair and vice chair of the committee to agenda item 5. The item following public comment at item number 4. And I will do a roll call. Mr. Canberra,
Aye.
Dr. Thompson,
Aye.
Mr. Scott,
Aye.
Mr. Crawley,
Aye.
and Chair Doss.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Motion carries. So the next item is the approval of the minutes for October 13, 2021 and November 10th, 2021, and then June 15th, which was last month's meeting of 22. So we may not have a quorum of the members that were on the committee for the October 13th 21 meeting or the November 10th. I don't believe we do. Can you check that for me, Mark Johnson? And then I see that Dr. Thompson, Stacy has a
Yeah,
comment.
I'm sorry. I just like to suggest that we approve the minutes that we can first,
Right.
before we get into the ones we can't approve, so that we at least get some business taken care of.
Yeah, so would you like to make a motion?
I move that we to approve the June 15 minutes.
Okay, I second that motion. And we call for the,
Okay, Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Canberra,
Aye.
Dr. Thompson,
Yes,
Mr. Crawley,
Yes,
Mr. Crawley wasn't present at the last meeting.
but I do approve of approving it first.
very good. And Ms. Dawson,
yes, I approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2022 meeting. So motion carries with, I think, 4 of us, and Marcus, you technically should have abstained.
Well, I thought that the motion was to move it, to vote on it first. And so that's what I thought that I was approving, the positioning of it. But I guess maybe I've got that wrong, and that's okay. Then in that case, I abstain.
So yes, the motion, my motion was to approve the June 15th minutes. And we can discuss the other minutes separately, but just keep the agenda moving.
Okay.
Yeah. So then the question was, who attended the October and 13, 2021 and the November 10th, 21. And I don't think we have a quorum. I think it's the same situation as last meeting.
let's see. is I-
Andrea, may I say something about that?
Yes, Mr. Crowley.
Okay, I think that we do have a quorum on that. I think Benjamin Scott was there, I was there, you were there, and Yosef, I believe he was there, but the other person that was there has resigned, so she's not even available to be part of a quorum.
I
So
understand that.
That was Patricia. Let's see, that was Patricia Ellis.
Okay, so I think we could, I'd like to just come back to this and table it again because
So Madam Chair, I reviewed those minutes, though I wasn't present, and there are no action items on there for us to spend so much time.
I agree.
We're not approving.
I
There's no
agree.
action items in these minutes, so.
Right, I agree. So let's just move on.
And
Okay.
point of clarification, if there were no action items, this board that is standing now, this committee, Oversight Committee, can move to accept the minutes. That is allowable under the Brown Act, under Robert's rules. If there were no action items on that and you have a member that was no longer on the board, it would be appropriate if you move to accept the minutes as presented. You don't have to approve them because there is nothing really to approve.
Okay, so I think that's what we ought to do. Thank you for that point of clarification. Jeff?
Yeah, just, I guess it's a point of order more than anything else. Does the quorum have to be the quorum of the entire board for this specific purpose? Or can the quorum be defined by the number of people that attended the meeting?
I'll answer. I think the bylaws say that we have to have a minimum of 5, so the quorum would be 3. So I think that's a good point of clarification. For future, we can look that up and clarify that again, but let's go ahead and accept. I motion to accept the October 13th, 2021 meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, so roll call, please. Mark Johnson.
Sure. And that's just for the October 13th, not for November and January. Or are we combining the 3 to accept?
I thought we were combining the 3.
I think that's fine. Okay, let's combine all 3 in it for acceptance.
Very good. Okay, so this is to accept October 13th, November 10th, and January 12th.
Okay.
Is that the question?
Yes.
Sure. So then as one of the members did not attend any of those 3, I'm thinking I need to abstain from that discussion and that vote. I understand that we're not voting that their accuracy, but I wasn't even on the board back then. And so I'm feeling a little uncomfortable just before we go forward with this. So I'd like to hear any other views before I abstain.
I had planned to abstain as well.
Well, good. That's unanimous.
Okay.
Great. So let's see. So Dr. Thompson is abstaining. Mr. Canberra?
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Crawley?
I'm not abstaining. I'm going to vote.
And your vote is?
I approve the minutes. Thank you.
Mr. Scott?
Aye.
And Ms. Dawson?
Yes, I approve all 3 of them and I accept them.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Moving on. We have public comment. Item 4. Do we have any public comment this evening? Okay, hearing none. I will move on to item 5, which is election of chair and vice chair for the committee. So, any nominations?
Yes, I nominate Dr. Stacy Thompson as the new chair of this committee.
Stacy, Would you like to say something?
I'm sorry. I would like to put my name on the ballot for the vice chair, since it's only my second meeting, and I think that it'd be more appropriate for me to serve in a supportive role for someone who's had more experience or time on the board. But I am absolutely flattered, Mr. Crowley, that you would throw my name in the ring for that position. But I would like to be considered for vice chair.
Okay.
Can I speak up? This is Benjamin.
Yes, you may.
So the position of chair has nothing to do with experience with the particular body. It's about conducting the meeting, which it would seem with your vast experience, you have lots of experience. So it's more about administration than knowledge of the topic.
I have a lot of knowledge of the topic. I'm not that I'm just not prepared to take on that response. Okay, I abstained from that position. I declined the chair position, but I would like to nominate myself for vice chair. How about that? I appreciate the vote of confidence.
So I will say that I will self-nominate to stay on as chair for at least 6 more months, maybe the year, but at least 6 more months. And then there is nothing in the bylaws that says we cannot have a change of leadership 6 months from now, because I will be terming out next year. So I would be happy to stay on as chair, and I would second the nomination of Stacy Thompson as vice chair. And then I would like to, after the first of the year, propose to revisit elections. So we have a seamless kind of education around a cohesive group, because it really feels like we're going to be a cohesive group. So,
Point of information.
yes.
My question is, according to the bylaws, can the chair serve more than 1 term?
Yes.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, there are no limits on the chair and vice chair role within the committee. The only limits are the terms that the committee member is allowed to serve. So to the extent that somebody can serve 3 consecutive 2-year terms, somebody could conceivably be the chair for 6 years.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I wanted to nominate Marcus Crowley for the vice chair position as well. So I guess that would be 2 people running.
Well, I'm willing to arm wrestle Stacy if, or if Stacy is really strongly wants to be the vice chair, I would be happy to let Stacy be the vice chair. Sooner or later, I would like to be the role apply for the role of either vice chair or chairman sooner or later, but it doesn't have to be today.
I do want to be the vice chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to have at least 6 months, if not a year, to work with the staff and Andrea and Etheria and everyone for this committee, and then move into the chair role. And so then that would definitely provide you, Marcus, with an opportunity to be vice chair if you still felt that that would be something you would want to do at that time. Does that seem like that makes sense?
Well, that sounds like a good solution.
So as I understand it, we do have a motion on the floor for Andrea Dawson as chair and Stacy Thompson as vice chair. Do we want to do a 1 vote with that package, or roll by roll?
I think technically there needs to be seconds, and then we could decide if we want to do one
Right.
roll call.
Well, then I think the only one that I heard that has a second is Stacy as vice chair, self-nominated and seconded by Andrea Dawson. Everything else I think needs a second.
So I would second Andrea's bid for the chair position.
Okay, so then do we want to do a roll call for both together? Roll call, please.
Okay, so this is for Andrea Dawson as chair and Stacy Thompson as vice chair. Mr. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Crawley?
Yes.
Dr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Canberra?
Aye.
And Ms. Dawson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So we are on to the next item, which is presentation of the 2021 audit report. And I will let Vice Chancellor Etheria Smith make the introductions and lead us into it.
Sorry, I was slow on the mute. Thank you.
Oh, that's okay.
Chair Dawson. So I will introduce our finance team. Vice Chancellor Ahmed and Momo Lin, and also Andrea Stokes. So thank you for coming this evening. And if you can please take over and share your audit report with the rest of the group. Thank you.
Thank you, IVC Smith. We have the auditors that did the audit. CLA are here, and I will give the floor to David to present the audit for 2021 for the bond. David,
Yeah, great. I prepared, as we did last year, just a real brief presentation to highlight the results of the audit. I'm going to share my screen. Feel free to ask questions along the way. Just by see a few heads nodding, you see a presentation that's titled Peralta Community College District. Thank you. So there are multiple components to the work we do, but they in scope cover the general obligation bond fund, both measure A and G. And the period that was covered was July 1st in the most recent audit, July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. There are two deliverables for each measure, a audit of a financial statement as well as a performance audit. And so in total, there are 4 reports, 2 for each measure. And I'm going to walk through the results of those today. I will say there were no findings or control issues. So primarily the results here are going to demonstrate that, as well as indicate the amount of work we did when it comes to the performance. So here in the audited financial statements, you'll see our audit report, which is to the accuracy of the financial statements themselves on pages 1 to 2. You'll find that that's unmodified, which is a clean opinion, and represents that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. We do a fair amount of work, and you'll see that later, but it is not absolute assurance. It is not 100% coverage. It is fairly in all material respects, which is language you would see in any independent external audit, no different here. In the audited fund financial statements, you'll see a balance sheet, which you would see for any organization, a statement of revenue and expenses and changes in fund balances, which is a government term for an income statement or a profit and loss statement, which are the ins and outs of the proceeds from the bonds, as well as the expenses and all the capital areas laid out there. And then following the financial statements, you'll see notes, disclosures to those financial statements, which indicate that they are prepared on a modified accrual basis of accounting, which is different than full accrual because, and I guess the main difference is a lot of the spending is on items that would be capitalized in a GAAP basis financial statement. But here they are, treated as expenses or distributions of those revenue proceeds. So again, useful basis of accounting for spending of proceeds from a debt issuance on capital, but it is not US GAAP or GASB. That would be a different presentation. Scrolling through, you'll see that on pages 11 to 12 of the audited financial statements, you'll see a report on internal controls. These audits are required to be performed in accordance with government auditing standards, in addition to generally accepted auditing standards. And what that the government auditing standard requirement does is it requires us to do additional work in the area of internal controls over compliance that you wouldn't see in a basic generally accepted auditing standards audit. And then we issue a report on that. It's not an opinion, but it's a report indicating had anything come to our attention in our review of internal controls, we would communicate that to governance. You'll see some of those communications here. So these next couple of bullet points, you'll see no material weaknesses were identified, no instances of non-compliance, and we are required to include a schedule of findings and responses. And in your case, you'll find that those schedules indicate that there were no findings, but we're required to include the schedule nonetheless. Any questions so far?
I have just a quick question regarding your. Is this the first time that this company has done the audit, or has it been traditional?
This is the second year. The 2019 was provided by Ideally.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I mentioned there were two deliverables for each measure. The second is a performance audit, which is a slightly different scope and much more narrative in nature in terms of the work we did. A traditional external audit, independent audit, wouldn't be accompanied by affirmative statements about the number of items we tested or whatnot. So this is what the performance audit is. So on page 1, you'll find the independent auditors report. And here we've indicated that the bond proceeds were expended on the specific projects that were developed by the Board of Trustees and approved by the voters for these particular measures. And then we lay out the objectives of the performance audit. So you'll see on page 3 that our objectives were to determine that expenditures were charged or in accordance with the measures and made in accordance with the bond project list approved by the voters. So those of you who have sat in on other oversight committees or even on this one over the years, you'll find that these are the same objectives that you would see for both the, for the performance audits. So very standard nature. And I promised that we would demonstrate some of the highlights of the performance audit, which indicate the amount of work we did. So measure A, you'll see that our sample included 58 transactions representing 58% of those total expenditures. Measure G, with 55 transactions and 61% of total expenditures. And for those items tested, we review actual invoices, supporting documentation, compared to a list of projects that were approved to verify they were in alignment. A few additional highlights. Measure A had payroll expenditures, and we analyzed the payroll and benefit transactions for all 4 employees that were charged in Measure A. Measure G had no payroll expenditures. And amounts expended on salaries and benefits were only to the extent employees performed work on the measure. So that concludes prepared comments. Happy to answer any follow-up questions or questions for clarification.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you being here and presenting to the group.
Yeah, sorry. I was on mute. I did say questions from anyone in the committee.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, on the note 7 under litigation, and this may not be an auditor's question regarding various litigation. So it sounds like there is, I guess, what we would call litigation in the normal course of business. It doesn't really it doesn't give you any quantity or I guess any quality of what that litigation exposure might be. Is there insurance that would generally cover some of these litigation type items? And if this is beyond the scope, I apologize for the question here.
Yeah, I'll start, and others may have additional comments, but you know, the requirements to either accrue a potential contingent liability or disclose the amount, we're required to meet certain thresholds of probability and the ability to estimate those. So when you find a disclosure like this that indicates matters, they generally are in the normal course of action, and they're early enough in those processes that they're not able to either conclude on the probability or provide a reliable estimate. But the point that they cross those two barriers, then you would see those amounts accrued and disclosed.
So I understand that. So is that just as part of general accounting procedures and preparing these types of documents?
Yeah, you will see this disclosure if there are any potential matters, albeit maybe you're in the very early stages. Yes.
Okay, so there's something out there, we just can't quantify it right now.
So can I ask, can you give maybe an example? In other words, is it like a construction contract that a contractor has filed a potential claim because they believe that they have a dispute on a change order or some part of the project that may well get resolved prior to project closeout and releasing their retention and closing the whole project with the state? Is that something that's a fair ask?
Yeah, I don't recall the specific items that generate this disclosure in this moment. It's been several weeks, but so I can objectively say as an example, that could possibly generate a disclosure like this. But I don't recall the specific circumstances here. Management would have a much better handle on, you know, the cases that are pending and the circumstances.
I will give you an example, you know, of a particular case, and it was just the opposite of what was the example, for example, that you posed, Andrea. We went after a contractor for poor workmanship. The project was called Laney Leaks because it had to do with, it came out in the paper, so it was some disclosure about that. We sued the contractor and we prevailed.
Okay.
To the tune of a little bit over $3 million. All of that was public information that was out there, but again, we don't talk about it. It isn't part of the audit review because it was ongoing litigation. It did not get resolved until after this audit was done. And they really had no bearing over the internal actions. It had just something to do with activity that we had in terms of litigation against a contractor.
So that, but it was a bond measure contractor.
I believe it was, IVC Smith, wasn't it under, I can't remember if it was Measure G or Measure A.
It was under Measure A.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I just, wanted to understand that what kind of things would be underneath that. The other thing is,
I can thank Dr. J for that, because that was going to be the other part of my question, is that not defensively, but offensively, if we were going to be getting some money back as well.
Absolutely. And the thing is, until it's resolved, it doesn't actually show, and then it just offsets the expenditure that we already made for the work. So it isn't, sometimes it's a zero-sum game. once you add in the cost, but it means that at least we got the item repaired, fixed, and not at any additional costs, and recoup some of that because we had to go back and redo some of the poor workmanship that was done previously.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Well, then I have one other question. Can you explain to us how you take the samples? I mean, what is your process of getting the samples from the district?
Yeah, there's two things. We first start with what a statistically sound sample would be, and generate a random sample. And then second, we then use some amount of judgment to then expand on top of that statistical sample to gain coverage in terms of total dollars. So there's really two ways to go about that. And the reason that we do that is, one, a statistical sample can generate maybe small dollars, and maybe in the way it is random, right? So although it may be 95% reliable in terms of its ability to detect errors, it may not land or onto maybe some of the more frequent vendors and larger relationships that aggregate to a large sum. So we will then layer on top of that additional samples that in our discretion would provide us coverage and get to those numbers at 50% coverage on expenditures.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, I had the same question. Good question.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I said that was a good question. I had the same question.
It's a great question.
Oh,
It is a good one.
yeah. All right. So other.
I have a question.
Yes, Benjamin.
I'm just curious if change orders are part of the audit or not.
Yes. Part of the process is the procurement, requisition, and purchasing process.
I have one other question, and that is how much of a sample and how much do you look at the district's ability to pay the contractor and the vendors timely?
Part of our work, hasn't been, days outstanding or invoices or the ability to pay. Certainly, we look at the district's accuracy in accruing expenditures as they're incurred. And so we do a lookout from June 30th after period end to verify that any work that was done within the fiscal year was accrued back. And in that process, we didn't identify anything that is more than inconsequential in terms of the cycle time by which we had to accrue back, right? So indicators would be, disbursements into December and January accrue back. I don't recall that being the case. Now, I am not looking at the work papers in this instant, but I do think that something out of the norm or abnormal there in that year-end process would come to mind, and nothing is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So other questions or comments on the audit?
Yes, I have a question, Chair Dawson.
Yes.
I wanted to ask David if he can send a copy, or maybe Mark, or and if you have it.
David's going to send a copy.
Yep.
Okay.
Mark just asked in the chat, so I will
Okay.
send a copy.
Great, thank you. And I want to be sure to get a copy.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, and just for the new members and existing members, technically, we are supposed to receive this audit by March 31st of this year, which has passed, even if it has not been accepted by the school district. Once it is submitted to the district, the state regulation says it is to come to the committee at the same time. So we should be getting it timely, and within, sometimes a district will be all week off, but it really we're to get the audit at the same time that the district does. So
Just a point of clarification, the audit was accepted by the board, I believe, in February. And so I think it was because you didn't have a quorum, and that's why it's been put off. But if you check the public records on board docs, it did go to the board within that time. The state of California extended the audit deadline. Usually it takes place in December. It was extended by the state because of COVID. The district met that deadline and the board did adopt it, and it was published publicly.
yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Dr. Jackson. I just wanted to explain to the committee, though, at the same time that the board and the district got it, I think regardless whether we would have had a quorum or not, it should have been sent to all the members of the committee. So if you look at the regulation, it says it's to be submitted on or before March 31st to the district and the committee. So I just want everyone to understand it for next year. So
yeah, and I just wanted the record to reflect that it was done in a timely manner and
Yeah.
did meet the deadlines.
yeah, I'm very aware that you did, and I thank you. And it's been under your leadership that and Atheria Smith that a lot of this has become more timely. That there's a lot of you in this meeting to thank. Mark Johnson too. So anyway, many of you. But thank you. So yes, Marcus Crowley. Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to clarify something that you said, and I think that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that the board is supposed to share it with us, share it with the committee when or shortly after they receive it. Now, so I don't believe that it says share with all the individual members of the committee. So I wanted to clarify that. Mark, does anybody here have an answer to that? And Andrea said it should have been shared with the individual, and I don't understand where that requirement comes from.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you read the regulation, it doesn't specifically say you do or you don't to the individuals, but it says to the committee members. So I think that it's pretty clear, and that regulation was put forward so that citizens and bond oversight committees did not get the report long after the district had it. That was the intention of that amendment to the original regulations, right?
Well, if I don't know whether you're asking me or that was a rhetorical right. I don't have the answer.
Yeah, well, I'll look up the ed code, but it's an amendment, so it's not super quick to find it to the ed code. That's either I think it's to 15280 or it's an amendment to 15278. I'm not sure, but which one it is in, okay?
Okay.
But I can find it and send it to everybody. It's just a point of clarification. And we were not a cohesive committee in the spring. I would be the first to admit it. So I'm just saying, from moving forward, I hope that we can meet the milestones and the intent and the spirit of the law for next year. Okay.
Okay. I don't think that there's a problem. The district has always been very good about sharing it with us in the past. And I think that if there was any kind of fault here, it was probably our fault, not their fault.
Yeah, I will send the regulation to everyone when I find it. So.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So We got more items to cover, so if there's no other comments on this topic, let's move on. Okay,
Thank you,
Oh.
David. Appreciate you coming in.
I do too. Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Yeah,
Thank you, David.
thanks a lot. So the next item is the program update and bond issue status, and that is Dave Olson and Keith Kajia. And you want to lead off, Dave?
Sure, I'm happy to. I don't know, Keith, whether you you have anything specific to add. I know we made a pretty detailed presentation at the last CBOC meeting.
And it's just if the committee wants to see current status and perhaps some renderings of the projects. Like, I think some of the new members have never seen some of that stuff.
Okay.
But up to the committee, if they choose to do that.
And I apologize. I carried this item over from the last agenda because we usually meet quarterly, but we just met a month ago. So there's, you know, admittedly not much to update off of the presentation from June 15th.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy to kind of give a summary. I know we gave the presentation last month, but I talked about at the last presentation, we talked about three things, you know, with regard to the district's bond cash flow, kind of historical expenditures. The district last issued bonds in May of 2020, has been spending down proceeds at about $2 million to $4 million a month. Ended this last fiscal year with a little bit more than $50 million in the bank. So the second thing I talked about was projected expenditures over the next year or so, year, 2 years, 3 years. The district's going to be spending money a lot more quickly. A lot of projects are breaking ground. We expect the burn rate to increase to $8 million a month next year, perhaps more than that in the years to come. And so the third thing I mentioned is the bond issue, which is how we're going to fund those issues, those projects. We're clearly within a year of running out of expending all of the 2020 proceeds. We generally like to borrow money so that we between a year and 6 months of running out of proceeds, absent any other notable constraints. So we're clearly within that time. Moving forward with a bond issue that'll fund at least a year of projects, probably two, but we're not legally allowed to borrow more than 3 years worth of projects at a time. And that the schedule is, you know, pretty much what we talked about last time. The district will be approving a resolution in September. We'll be selling bonds probably in late September and putting monies in the bank sometime in mid-October. So that's the basic plan, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from anyone? So if not, we'll I think, move on to the exciting stuff and let Keith give us an update of what you've been doing for the last month. You're busy. I know you are.
Oh, yeah, you're muted, Keith.
I don't know, Sharon, did you have a chance to prepare a deck, or I have a deck if you don't have one, that's fine.
I have the deck. I actually sent it over to you, but if you allow me control, I can actually share my screen.
Oh, wow.
You have the power, Sharon.
Sharon has the power. She has the more updated slides.
Cool.
Okay, so let's try this out. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
We do.
Perfect.
Yep. Great.
Okay, Keith.
So this is our kind of snapshot of our finances that we kind of show every time. Notably, we continue to commit contracts to the capital program. I think from the last time we've committed a few additional $1 million in contracts. These are some of the active capital projects at each of the campuses. At Laney, that's the theater extension, the modernization of Laney Theater. It's an extension to the lobby area and some modernizations to the existing facility. Berkeley City College, that's a rendering of the new building on the corner of Center Street and Milvia. For Merritt, that's the rear view of the Child Development Center, which is the first project probably to hit the ground as far as construction. Bidding is nearly complete here. And then College of Alameda is also on the street. Aren't bids due next week for that, Sharon? Or the auto diesel building for College of Alameda?
That is true.
Yeah, so we're right at that cusp of these projects actually being bid. So as I've noted before, it's going to be groundbreaking time, assuming we can still get together in person somehow. Have groundbreaking ceremonies. And then we'll just step through some of the major capital projects and some of the things that we've been doing with the bond funds for the benefit of some of the newer members. This is at the College of Alameda, the new Center for Liberal Arts. This is money that largely the legacy Measure A bond money was used to complete. So this building is now in full operation on the campus. The next slide is the exterior rendering of the auto diesel building, which is what we were seeing on the previous slide. That's in bidding right now. So this project is currently in bidding. The bids are due next week. So exciting time to see what the costs are going to look like for these projects. I think you may recall that I was mentioning in past presentations, we've seen pretty significant escalation in the construction bidding market. Some of the indexes are showing 25% premium due to the kind of post-COVID or active COVID bidding environment that we're in. Certainly a lot of the influx of some of the infrastructure money and the return of a lot of construction work into the market is driving some of our pricing up. We're also seeing significant impacts on some of the delivery of materials and items like that. So we're trying to come up with creative ways to do early buyouts on some of these items. But some of the projects that we bid out, we've seen some higher numbers on. So we're, again, looking to divide the program into two discrete phases, with the phase one projects being all those that are represented here, specifically those that have state matching funds tied to them, where we're leveraging other funding sources outside of our local bond monies. And then we've set aside our phase two projects, which is that additional $400 million that we've kind of held in abeyance at the moment until we get some cost certainty on some of these active projects. You can probably go in presentation mode. I guess you're not in presentation mode, Sharon. This is just an aerial view of the auto diesel building on the College of Alameda. And some interior shots. Again, this is the auto diesel. So it's a combination of the auto technology and diesel mechanics schools into one single building on the campus. And part of these projects involves the demolition of the existing buildings that are on the College of Alameda. So if you're familiar with, right, when you come out of the tube, you see the diesel mechanics building. That building will be demolished. And then the auto diesel building, or the auto building, is right next to this new project here on the other side of the campus. This is kind of one of the older renderings of the Milvia exterior for the new building on the corner of Center Street and Milvia for Berkeley City College. You can see that there was a lot of thought put into the exterior design to make sure there's some sort of nexus between the existing Center Street campus and the new campus on the corner of Center Street and Milvia. So there was a visual certain kind of purpose to kind of make sure that there was some kind of visual tie between the two buildings. And so I think the one on the left there is a little bit more of a current rendering of kind of the open exterior, the facade that's on the building. And then you probably have some interior shots. So pretty typical, a lot of thought put into kind of flexibility of space in this building, of course, with the evolution of education and the delivery of education to the students of Peralta. Working closely with the site administration to kind of have flexible learning spaces within the new building. This is the Learning Resource Center on Laney campus. So this is one of the larger projects in the capital program. It's currently still in DSA. We've had a last minute kind of notice from the California Geologic Survey as we were coming through the final stages of DSA review, and a fault line was discovered that was not indicated previous. So we we've had to redesign the foundation of some of these projects that are on Laney. So that's kind of suspended a little bit of the schedule related to those projects as we work through some foundation redesign and going back through with DSA to get those projects approved. But you see, it's going to be a beautiful building, but really kind of a noteworthy kind of entrance point from the other side of the campus, separate from the BART's station side, right next to the wash there. This is an exterior, so a lot of thought related to an open floor plan space inside of the building. So excited for getting this project moving. It's also state funded as well. And this is the Child Development Center at Merritt College. So this will be the first project that we've bid. And the bids that came in for this were, remind me, Sharon, was it 20% over or 20 our budget? I'm trying to recall.
It's 22% over.
22% over our latest estimate when the actual bids came in for the project. So we're seeing the escalation blip of the 25% that we're kind of seeing in the index. But we're waiting to see how some of these other bids come in, to see if that's something that we're going to continue to see on the future bids, or is this some kind of anomaly. These are just the exterior shots of the Child Development Center, but exciting that this will be one of the first projects that will start construction and will be groundbreaking as we go to the board shortly for approval of the contract. And then do we have the horticulture project as well? This is the other state funded project on the Merritt campus, the new horticulture center for the college. This also includes an interim housing facility for existing students that are there, for us to clear the site and build a new horticulture complex. This project is out of DSA. We've got the DF14 from the state, right, Sharon?
Yes, we do.
So what's the bidding schedule for this project?
We're working on the bid documents right now, and purchasing is about to let it out to the, excuse me, let it out to the public. It's the nagging COVID cough. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we actually both Sharon and I, Andrea, we also have COVID. So
Oh, me too. So there's 3 of us here.
I'm kind of on the tail end, so you probably don't even notice it in my voice, but I do have the brain fog. That's why I'm a little foggy.
Yeah, I know. I know what they're talking about. Yeah.
But that was just kind of an overview, certainly for the newer members to get some visuals on some of what these projects look like. I think the great news is that these projects are bidding or in the process of bidding. So all the things that David Olson was mentioning related to the exponential increase in our spend, it's tied to these projects actually moving out to the next phase of construction. So exciting times for the district, and we'll be looking forward to COVID-less groundbreaking ceremonies, however we decide to do that as we move forward into construction.
Yeah. So questions or comments from anyone?
I had a quick question. I know I'm excited about the lab school at Merritt because when I started teaching, when I became a faculty member, it was in child development, and we were talking about getting that lab school back then in 1999. So,
wow.
So I'm really excited. And is the state matching the funds? Is it for the lab school?
Yes,
there are state matching funds, but as you're probably fairly aware that the state does not really give you 50% of the project, right? So
right. Well, the last time we forfeited our share so that we could build the science building. So it was our time. And what about the landscape horticulture? Are they getting any outside funding, or is it?
Yes. That's also state funded. So in combination across the district, these projects represent the state match of $77 million.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that really helps us obviously leverage the local bond funds, right? By using
So Keith or Sharon, so the state matching funds are already in place. So you were, or you're in line.
No, they're in place, right? That's what's held up actually some of the projects to actually be bid, is because we came out of DSA for some of these projects and we hadn't received the DF14, which is the final approval from the Department of Finance to release the projects to bidding. So that funding has been secured. What we're not sure of is if there'll be some additional increases in escalation since the market's pretty much going bananas, right? The state has talked about doing a kind of a new index related to how they're going to upsize escalation impacts because we're seeing unprecedented escalation in some of the numbers that we're seeing.
Right. Well, that's good. That's very good. And that's really kudos to everybody at Peralta that you really got in, I call it in line, and then successfully secured the funding, because that's an art in itself. This I know.
Yes.
So
He actually has 6 state-funded projects.
that's great. That's really good. So
That's awesome, yeah.
yeah, it's very good. All right, other questions or comments? Yeah, if not, Mark, can I ask, do we have any public comment?
Anybody want to make a public comment? Raise your hand. I see a thumbs up, but no hands raised, so we're good.
Okay.
All right.
This is Shirley Coaston. I'm from the public, and I've been waiting for years for that library to be built. I'm hanging on, working hourly because I want to walk into the building so I can finally retire. It's been a long time.
Well, thank you for that interest and comment. Wow. We'd like to hear from you. So yeah. So
Just a comment, even though I work for the district, since you're asking for public comments, first of all, Shirley, I know you have been waiting a long time. We started envisioning the Laney Library project back in 2004, when we were with Measure E, even before Measure A, and it's been kicked down the road. So hopefully, even with the little setback that we've had with the fault line, the project is still going forward. And hopefully as COVID regresses, I won't say it will ever go away, that we actually can have a groundbreaking ceremony, and absolutely invite you to be a part of that.
yes, for sure. It's exciting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So moving on to our work, which is producing the 2021 annual report. So with the help of the district, Mark Johnson in particular, we did produce the 1920 report and reviewed it at our June meeting and accepted it. And then it was presented to the Board of Trustees. And so I have not looked, but it should be posted on our website now as an accepted report for the 1920. Now we are on to doing the current report based on the audit that we just were presented. So I am willing to help on it and spearhead it if no one else wants to. And but given that Dr. Thompson was encouraged to be vice chair and may step forward and be chair in 6 months, it might be of interest to you that we work together on the annual report, and we can have another person if anyone else is interested in helping us. If not, your thoughts, anyone's thoughts on this?
So Jeff, I think you need to be on this little committee to help with this as a new member. What do you think about that?
Does that mean I'm being drafted?
That means you're being voluntold.
I didn't step back fast enough, I think is
That's
the
right.
term, right? Anyway, it'd be a great opportunity to come up to speed on the inner working. So I will be happy to, I guess, volunteer.
Voluntold.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you both, and with a boilerplate, and it actually has quite a bit of information that rolls over from one year to the next in it. And then things that we would like to put in it in particular for this past year. So I can explain it to you more in an email, but I will say that we are only responsible to do one thing, and that is certify that the district was in compliance. And we are to report to the taxpayers the compliance of the spending of the bond measure funds. I feel like a report that says who we are and what's been accomplished, and any pluses and minuses that we see are also in that report, because I feel like if I were a taxpayer, I want to really understand that the committee understands the whole program and what they see and how they believe the taxpayer is being taken care of or not. So anyway, that's how I've presented reports in the past on another committee I'm still on, Oakland Unified's for many years. So anyway, I see that Chancellor Jackson's hand is up, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Dawson. Well, let me back up a bit. As I said, I was the chancellor at Chabot Las Positas for 5 years before I retired. And we also had a bond, $900 million bond, the second highest bond in the state of California, with a community college. And so I'd like to bring in some of the ideas that we did when we did our report to the citizens of our community in this particular next round. I wasn't here to really participate in the last one, and we were really trying to get it out. But I do have some ideas that I'd like to work with the committee on. And one of them that I think that is kind of crucial that we did to bring to the citizens, what we're doing is the economic impact of the issuance of bonds and the construction projects, how many jobs it brings in, how we are an integral part of that. And we haven't really talked about that component of it. I've been working with a friend who retired from Chabot Las Positas. IVC Smith and I met with him, in fact, today, who's willing to help us in that process. So I'd like to bring that to this subcommittee that's working on that to see if we can do it. We may not be able to do it this year because we have to gather that information from the chamber. And I know, Jeff, you're very familiar with that. So I'm glad you were voluntold and stepped forward, because I don't think people really, the community at large, doesn't really grasp the impact of the projects that we're bringing to our region. And I think that that's important for them to see that, not just that they're paying for it in parcel tax money, looking at our curriculum, not just that we're sending out bonds and they're investing in that, but also what is the other return on the investment of that? And that is an economic increase in the economic stability of our region. So I really would like to work with you on that as we move forward. And IVC Smith also as the executive director, Mark, working on our kind of assisting and being the board secretary for this committee. Thank you, Mark. But I really think that our next report, because we're coming out of COVID, and what does that mean? We're getting ready to let out some new tranches in bonds. What does that mean? What projects have we already done and been successful on? We've had a successful audit with no material weaknesses. And those are all things to be celebrated. And I don't think that we've done as good a job as we could do, because there's always room for improvement. And so I'd like to work with the committee on that. So we can even maybe include it in our annual report. So those are my closing comments on that.
Okay, so thoughts or comments from any other committee member? Okay, we're moving on. It's 6:50. We're doing good on time. So I will reach out to Stacy and Jeff and we'll get started and we'll loop staff in for their help and we'll move forward. Okay. And so I believe the board takes off in August, correct?
The Board of Trustees does, yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So
Yes.
we'll plan to have this for our September meeting. That's the target. September. All right. So on this item, do we have any public comment other than, yeah, outside public comment?
No hands raised,
Okay.
no thumbs up.
Okay. So we're moving on to website subcommittee report from Marcus Crowley.
Well, thank you, Andrea. Last autumn, Patricia Ellis and I did have a couple of meetings to discuss the website. As we know, the Education Code section 15278, which establishes this committee, requires that the committee have a website that the district shall maintain. And after we talked it over and we agreed that we don't have a website. What we do have is a button on the propaganda website called Build Peralta. So we don't even have a tab. We just have a button on somebody else's website. We think that the urge to build construction, it should be independent, and our committee here, the full committee, should decide what content we want on our website. And presently, we've never had that discussion of the content. Patricia Ellis and I objected to one of the first contents on the our so-called website, and that is thanking the voters for approving the bonds. Well, the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee should not be thanking the voters. Peralta should be thanking the voters because they're going to get some wonderful, beautiful new buildings. And the students should be thanking the voters. And maybe the college administrators and certainly ACOM and all the construction people. But of all those people, the people on this committee, we are volunteering. Everybody else is getting something and we're volunteering. So we should not be thanking the voters. That should be on some other website. So I think that our committee needs to have a discussion on whether or not we think that this committee should have an independent website. Now, maybe it might have some kind of hidden link so that it appears to be completely independent, and that'd be good enough for me. But when a person scrolls through Google and is looking for the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee of Peralta College, it should be a label right there. So that is what Patricia and I agreed on. And I don't know if that is, you expected more or expected less, but that's the status.
Well, I think you're saying two things. One is that we have an independent website. It is going to be connected with Peralta, or else folks couldn't find it. But anyway, it would be a link. But then the second question that you're putting forward and with some obvious concerns or feelings about it is that what is in that website. And so it sounds to me like you've given kind of an idea of what it shouldn't be, and that is it shouldn't be thanking the voters, but what should be there. And so in my mind, what should be there is all our report, us as members, all of our reports, all the financial audits. It should be the things that are produced that let us do our job of determining whether the district is in compliance or not.
Yes, Andrea, you're correct. All those documents should be on there. And I think that, well, at least what Patricia Ellis and I agreed is that that a person should be able to Google Peralta CBOC and get our website. They cannot do that right now. So the website, to my knowledge, we have to go through Build Peralta. Now, maybe that's changed in the last few days, but last time I used it, which was a few weeks ago, it still had to go through Peralta, Build Peralta.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, Mark Johnson, but I am going to ask you if that's the way you get to it.
So,
Can you not-
yes, the Bond Measures Oversight Committee is a space within build.peralta.edu as the domain.
Okay.
I will disagree with one comment, which is that people can't find. I just opened an anonymous browser in Chrome, so it's not using any of my default queries, and I searched Peralta Community College District Bond, and the first hit was about the bonds, Measure A and G on Build Peralta, and the second hit was Bond Oversight Committee Home. So it is, within the top 2 hits, if you're searching for the bond, that people can find the Bond Oversight Committee Home.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good to know.
We agreed that it needs to be readily available, and maybe that has been improved since we had our discussion last autumn.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So I think, yeah, Dr. Stacy Thompson, yes.
You just call me Stacy.
Yeah, okay.
So Marcus, is there a motion proposal, something on the floor for that came out of your committee's investigation of the website? Some directive that you can, would you like the committee to go, some direction you would like us to go in? Or,
well, I think that we can break it down and first off have a motion and a discussion on whether or not the website would be considered our website. Well, like I said, last autumn, which was almost 9 months ago, it was not readily available. And so what we would like to see is a person clicks on Peralta Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and comes right down to a list of tabs saying, okay, here's the agendas, here are the reports, here are the bond, a description of the bonds, and things like that. Not to have to go through pretty pictures of construction projects. Now, I think that the Build Peralta website is a wonderful website. It's a beautiful website, and it has good content, but our independent CBOC needs to have more independence on the web. And maybe right now it does. So I think the members of our committee here over the next couple of months could look at that. And then when we come back in September, we can have a knowledgeable discussion on what we find and what our ideas are.
So I'd like to say, so Marcus, I would like to suggest that you actually come with a list of what you think should be on there and the order that it should be in too, to that meeting.
Could I'm
And-
sorry.
and then-
I'm sorry. I just want to, I don't want people to do something that's already existing. And if the concern is that it is on the Build Peralta website, I think that would be easy to do, but I just, like Mark, just went out and did a search, and everything that you're talking about is on the Build Peralta website. If I could just share my screen, it has the board members. It's up to date with even Jeff Cambry and Dr. Thompson are on there. Shows a vacant seat. It has your minutes that are on there. It talks about the bond, and it's unless you want to recreate it, it's already out there. And here it is. If you can see, this is on Bill Peralta, but it talks about the Oversight Committee. If you can see my screen.
I can't see it.
Oh, I see. It's got a, I told you I had a problem with sharing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
But it's, if you go out and do the search, you'll see it already has the financial reports, the bond audits, the committee members, the agendas and minutes, and what the board policy is that establishes the committee. So I don't know why we would want to recreate that if it already exists, unless you just want to migrate that over to our domain instead of Bill Peralta domain, which may be what the issue or the question is.
Well, I think that's something that all the committee members should look at where it is now. And if they have an opinion of where it might be better placed, and come back in September, because I do believe in a few weeks ago when I looked, I thought most everything was there. I can't remember if our annual reports were there, but that would be the other thing that would belong there too. So I appreciate what you're saying, and it's just, if there's something, other suggestions that Marcus has, then bring them forward rather than us just talk about it. Like what's a good website? What does it have in it that we don't have? So and it sounds like from what Mark Johnson's saying, you can get to it quite easily, but I'm not a computer person, so if it should be in a better place on the Peralta overall website, then we're open to suggestions from new members also. So
Chair Dawson, if I may.
yes, please, Mark.
Sure. I just shared an example. If the concern is having the committee on build.peralta.edu and you'd prefer to have it on the regular www.peralta domain, that's something that's very easily doable. And here I shared an example of the Parcel Tax Measures Oversight Committee. So you can see how that looks in comparison. We're flexible. We're here to support the committee. So if you have a preference to be on the regular Peralta website as opposed to the bond website, which we thought made more sense when we were architecting this, in 2020, we're flexible.
So I think, once again, to all the committee members, take a look and see what you think, and let me know. Just send me an email and we can have a conversation about it again in September. But different people may have a different feeling about where it belongs. And I think it's important that you can get to it if you just Google Peralta Citizens Oversight Committee. That's, to me, what the most important thing is. If somebody's that interested in it, they're gonna do that and find it. So Marcus Crawley.
Yes. Andrew, I was reporting on what our most recent conversations were, which were 9 months ago. And I didn't feel like this is the time for me to dominate or tell you what I think. You know, I'm just reporting what we talked about, and that what we talked about is probably stale right now, but we can all update ourselves on it and have an intelligent dialogue in September.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question.
Stacy, yes.
So I know for accreditation, it's really clear where the accreditation reports need to be on the district and college websites. Is there that sort of criteria established in the ed code as well, or someplace else?
There is
Like
not.
that I didn't see it when I was looking through. So
There is not.
it's just a matter of how are other colleges doing it? Marcus, did you get a chance to look see how other colleges are posting their oversight committee, where it is and how it's located?
So while Mark's looking, I will tell you that I work for San Francisco Unified School District, and I'm on Oakland Unified's bond oversight. And it's on their facilities department website. So you can get there easily, and you can, I think the important thing, like what Mark brought up, you can type in Oakland Unified Citizens Oversight, and you can type in San Francisco's, and it pops right up, and so you can find it. And so it's in different places in different organizations.
Right.
So yeah,
Just as long as you can find it, right? I mean, that's the most important thing, that it's easily accessible.
I believe so.
Unless there's some other considerations that I'm not aware of, that should be the main, I would think would be the main issue here. Can people find it? Can people find the report? Is it visible? Can you Google it and find it, which is what I did. As long as there's no other like ed code or other type of mandate that says it needs to be at a certain place, then I think the conversation that we're going to have in September is, do we like where it is? Not, is it an efficient website? Because everything is on there. I looked at it too when I Googled it.
Right. Okay, so we'll revisit this in September. We'll move on so we can finish on time. So any public comment on that item, Mark Johnson?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. All right, so the next item is next meeting agenda recommendations, and I think we just got one, and so we'll put that on the agenda. And then if there's other topics that people want to talk about, in addition to the goal is that we'll have a draft annual report ready. Stacy and Jeff and Andrea, the three of us will. And so that would be an agenda item. And I see Marcus Crowley's hand.
Thank you. Yes, we just talked about having a meeting in September. I recommend that we actually set up all the future meetings for the next 9 months. Let's just say that the second Wednesday of every month will be at the same place, same time, our meeting. In the past, we have failed because we had a meeting scheduled, and then we didn't have a quorum, and then we had no meeting scheduled. So that we need to have a fail-safe system so that we have a backup meeting schedule, even if we don't have a quorum or for some reason can't have a meeting at all. So previously we agreed that it would be the second Wednesday of every month, with the exception of certain months. So shall we do that again? Say every month except December and August.
I would second that.
Good. Shall we have a vote on it?
Point of order. I don't think this was an agendized item, so I'm not sure that we could take a vote on it.
Correct.
That is, you're right.
Sorry.
You're right.
Everybody hates a lawyer, especially a
know.
public service lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, then we at least have our meeting scheduled for next September and a backup meeting for October, just in case there's a problem. Okay, Jeff, can you go along with that?
Actually, I just put it on, we have the meeting set up for September, just agendize the item we're all going to agree that it's going to be the second Wednesday of the month. And that
Right.
will cover us for all the
For
rest
the
of
rest of the,
in that September meeting.
Okay.
yeah. Okay, we'll put that on the agenda. Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
All right. So any other items? So please, if you have some, just send them along via email to myself and copy Stacy and Mark. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
So next item is new business. We just had one item. So, thank you, Jeff. So are there other items for new business for? Do I hear somebody chiming in?
It's not going to be a new item, but it should be agendized about the website, right? We're going to talk about that.
Correct.
I just want to be sure that we talk about that in the future meetings. I don't have anything to add.
The three items I captured as part of minutes are revisit the BMOC website, draft annual report, and meeting schedule for vote.
Yes. And we probably 2 months from now, it would be good to get a project update from Keith and Sharon, because you'll have good news for us. The ground will have broken in a few projects, hopefully. So.
I just want to add a future agenda item. It may not be for the next meeting, but for at least the following meeting, is an update on the issuance of the bond issuance that we anticipate for September that David Olson spoke to.
Correct. So, yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. So, please put that on when we're aware that it's going to happen. So we don't really know until you tell us. Okay. All right. Thank you. So anything else from the committee or staff or colleagues? No? Well, if not, have a safe and healthy rest of the evening, and hopefully everyone gets well from short or long-term COVID, including myself. So I'm on the road to recovery, definitely. And hopefully no one else gets COVID, but it's quite prevalent right now. Just, you should all know that it's, as my doctor said, who's also a personal friend, she says you never know where you're gonna get it now. It's just, it's a total, it's there everywhere. So anyway, so stay safe and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.